This is episode 47 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 47 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Mike Johnson on the show, and Mike Johnson is a production machine. The guy got into real estate as a realtor, and in his first year, he closed 52 deals. Yeah, that's not a mistake, 52 deals. He has also managed to accumulate himself 11 doors to date. He does a lot of triplex and fourplex conversions, and he's been very aggressive. He's done 3 deals in the last 3 months, and he's here to talk to you today about how he exercises that level of productivity, what the types of things that he does with his day, and how he stays focused. I thought it was an extremely interesting interview, and it's a little bit different than what we've done because it's really just focusing on the mindset, focusing on what goes in and the key ingredients to a successful day. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed it. Just a bit of quick housekeeping. The next Greater Hamilton REI meetup is happening on January 16th, and that is going to be hosted at the BRRRR. For detailed information on the event, please make sure that you click the link in the show notes of this episode and join our private Facebook group. You'll need to be on the guest lists in order to attend. It just helps us keep track of our numbers. So if you could please go ahead and do that now. Without further ado, please enjoy episode 47 with Mike Johnson. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Mike Johnson on the show. I've had 3 guests today, so I make sure I got the right one here. Mike, thank you for coming in and sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I know you have an interesting story because I heard a little bit about it. And I heard you speak on stage, and you are a high-performing realtor, a guy that hit the ground running and is kicking butts and taking names. So I want to hear all about it. I want to hear about your drive and determination, and you're an investor as well. So let's hear all about it.
Yeah, so I got into the business 2 years ago. Before that, I was in corporate. I'm from the East Coast. I moved up here to do my MBA at Laurier.
Okay.
Hated school, hated my job. I worked for Honda Canada. And then I met one of your competitors, I guess we'll call him, Sandy MacKay from... We'll give him a plug right now from Breakthrough REI podcast. And one of his episodes, Sandy just got his license. I called him. Sandy sold me a house. Asked him, question was, how much money is he making a year as a realtor? Mm-hmm. He told me, and it was quite appealing. So I'd say 9-10 months later, I quit my job and went to work with Sandy.
Did you start studying immediately?
Yeah.
So take your exams, and as soon as you got ready, you're okay, I'm out the door.
My old job, so I worked in sales and operations. So basically what I was doing, I would incentivize dealers to sell more cars. So whoever sold the most Civics would go on a trip to Mexico, or we took them to Stanley Cup finals. We took them to Patriots game at one point. And I would literally, on those trips, I'd be with them and just lock myself in a room and study and prepare for my courses.
So you were hustling with that, and I just thought it was a really cool story. I was kind of like do or die, right? Like when you quit your job, were you in a position, like how much time did you have before it was, okay, I'm going to be in trouble if I'm not making money?
Yeah. So in the beginning, my wife was still working. We had probably $15,000 in our bank account. She didn't have a huge salary. So I would say 6 months and we were broke.
So you needed to start seeing some commissions come in. 6 months.
But in 3 months after I got my license, she quit her job. So
does she work with you now?
She works in our property management company.
Oh, you started your own property management company?
Not me, but Sandy and Adrian, the guys I work with. Okay,
so you guys are working together. Obviously, you're not just a realtor; you're also doing your own investing, and I know Sandy is as well. Been meaning to get caught up with him as well and see a little bit about his story. You have the business background. You did the corporate life, realized that wasn't for you, much like myself.
Yeah.
I never really got into the corporate, but I found myself finishing up business school and saying, hey, I don't see myself in these different roles.
Yeah.
It seems like you're taking, the reason I thought this would be really great is because you're taking this like level of determination, like, hey, I'm deciding and I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. Have you carried that into your investing as well?
Yeah, like I'm very goal focused. So, interesting story. It happened to me, say within the last 3 months. So, my goal this year was to purchase 3 new houses. And every morning I wake up and there's a picture of the houses that I'm going to purchase.
Okay. You got some specific ones that are going to be?
In Hamilton, they're all 2.5-story bricks. So I have three 2.5-story bricks on my wall, and those are the ones I want to purchase. But 3 months ago, I had 0. Now I have 3. We just bought the third one 3 weeks ago.
You and your wife?
Me and my wife on some of them with partners.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you pulled that together. So you went from 0 to 100 in the last how many months?
3 months, 3 properties.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then you had one before that, right? Or is it just your home?
Now we're up to 1, 2, 3. I think now we're up to 6.
6 in total? Okay. And what are you doing with these properties? Like, walk me through what you're trying to find, what your thought is about what you can do with it, what it's going to be worth. Let's start from the top. Tell me a little bit about it.
So at this point, all multifams in Hamilton buy, renovate, refinance. So when we purchase, we want them cheap. We want them beat up. We want to be able to fix them, get an appraiser in there, and then pull all of our capital out and do it again.
Okay. So our listeners will be really familiar with the BRRRR model. That's my favorite.
Yeah. So
the 2.5-story brick houses in Hamilton, I'm familiar with those as well. I love those. Yeah. They got character to them. So that's your bread and butter? That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's all I want to do at this point.
Have you had one, like, you're not trying to sell them, you're just trying to keep them?
Yeah, we've never sold anything.
Okay, so you just want to do the BRRRR model.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the end value on one of these properties?
The most recent one we did, we had it appraised a few months ago. It came in at $785,000.
$785,000. Now I've heard Sandy throw out some numbers of a little higher than that as what he thinks he can get.
Yeah.
Have you seen some stuff or know of other people getting some stuff even higher than that?
Yeah, recently, like I know I sold one to a client of mine. It's legal duplex, 4 units. He bought it for 300 and hit, I think it was 830, 840.
840.
Yeah.
So something that he bought for 300?
Yeah.
That's a huge spread.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one I just told you about, we bought it for 290, legal triplex, 785. So.
You bought it for 290?
Yeah.
How did you find that?
In my opinion, you get good deals in 2 ways only that I've seen, at least. I'm sure there are other ways. So number 1's prospecting, banging on doors or making phone calls. Number 2, it's realtor mistakes. So this particular house, it was listed by a Toronto agent. They obviously had no idea what it was worth. Listed a 2,000 square foot legal tri at 300,000, and I was the first and only one in. Yep. And we scooped it.
I found a deal in London that way. It was listed by a Toronto realtor who did not list on the London board.
Yeah.
And I asked my friend about it, who's also a realtor. He ended up doing the deal. We worked it out, but I'm like, hey, look at this address. He's like, what are you talking about? That's not listed. I'm like, I'm looking at it on realtor.ca right now. He's like, what? He looks it up. Yeah, it wasn't listed locally. It sold for way less than it would have gone for if, like, London realtors couldn't see it. So yeah, that's interesting that you pointed out, because I've never heard anyone mention that on this show, but that is a way you find deals if a realtor makes a mistake and doesn't list it on the proper board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens, I would say 2-3 times a year.
Like one property, 2 things or
you get those opportunities only a couple times a year. I can think of a friend of mine, he bought around Main Street in Hamilton. He bought 3 of them in one shot, each one 2,800 square feet. Legal duplexes, legal tries for $350 a piece, and they'll appraise probably close to $1 million.
After he did some work?
Yeah, he's gonna gut the whole thing.
Yeah, so that was my next question. So you bought this at 290 and you've already done the work.
Yeah. And
refinanced it. Now all 6 properties you own are all 2.5 stories?
With the exception of one, we have 1 2-story.
Okay. So you bought this one at 290. What did you do to it?
So we gutted the whole thing. So back to the studs, new wiring,
plumbing, HVAC,
all new HVAC, new floors.
Did you waterproof the basement too?
No,
you didn't need to.
I think you always should.
Yeah.
And I would always recommend waterproofing. I took my chances on that one.
Took chances. It is an expensive job, and I've done it. I know how much it costs.
Yeah.
It's a little frustrating, but what's more frustrating is ripping out your brand new floors and trim.
Yeah.
That's also bad. So
especially if there's a tenant living in there.
oh man, it's a nightmare. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I won't do it for anything, even if I'm going to sell it, because I would feel bad.
Yeah.
Unless what I'll look for, and we'll just take a pause from your story for a second, is are there trees near the building? Because trees fill the eaves troughs. Eaves troughs filled mean the eaves troughs overflow. That's where you get water in the basement. The other reasons are downspouts aren't properly extended away, and then major cracks. Yeah. But if you can get rid of the major cracks and there are no trees near your house, odds are you should be okay, as long as your grading it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I've learned to look for these things in properties over the years because of getting myself into trouble, and man, water in the basement sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think
anyway,
it's a ticking time bomb.
It can be, right?
Eventually, they're 100-year-old houses.
But you might never have some houses just never have a problem. The grading's such, the soil type, if you have clay type soil, it won't let water get away. But if you have sand, water never wants to go in. It just goes down through the sand. So there's so many variables, but I'd say generally speaking, depending on the extent of your renovation, you might want to. But if you already had a finished basement and you're not going to have to tear it apart, then I wouldn't. I'd just leave it until I needed to. Yeah. So, okay. So you buy it, you had to gut that whole one. In this case, you refinished the basement. You probably had to smash up some concrete to do your plumbing for your bathroom there, or
a little bit, but not much.
Not too much. Okay. So you got a kitchen in the basement, kitchen in the main floor, full unit basement, full unit main, second, and the very top floor.
Exactly.
And then you have a private staircase that goes all the way up.
Yeah, so tenants can get to their units. They all have interior access and they have exterior access also.
That's amazing. How do you have enough room? What's the footprint on that to have enough room?
It's 1,900 square feet.
1,900. That's the footprint? That's not just that's the above grade space, or is that the footprint?
Yeah, footprint, I have no idea.
Maybe 800 square feet, the main floor would be
700-800, I would say.
So you're taking up a little bit of that with a stairwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Okay. So then you're in for 290. What about your carrying costs?
Carrying costs, closing costs, probably 20 grand.
So another 20 grand for all that. So you're in for 310,000. We'll call it at the end after your reno. Oh, sorry, your reno. We didn't do your reno costs.
Reno was 210.
So your renovation costs for 210,000. I knew I was missing something important there. So you're in for 520,000. You're getting appraisal at
785.
785. And what does the appraiser think of the fact that it's only a legal 2, despite that there are 4 units?
So it's legal 3.
Oh, it's a legal 3. Okay.
1 illegal unit. The person we work with doesn't care.
Okay, so they just recognize, hey, it produces income. It's actually a lot dictated by the lenders. If sometimes lenders will just have a criteria that as long as it's self-contained, has a kitchen, has a bathroom, they'll consider it a unit.
Yeah. So we do, everything I do is with Scotiabank, and I like to go legal, at least legal 2. But I have clients that will chop up a single family into 4 units, and Scotia never seems to have an issue with it.
Well, I mean, a lot of it's gonna come down to the income, right? What can that bring in? If they can rent it, then technically it should be okay. I have hesitated on the illegal units because I'm always worried about, well, what if the municipality will change something? But in Hamilton, there's such a shortage of housing. It's hard to imagine them going through Hamilton and eliminating all the illegal units when there are so many all over the place. Yeah, it seems. But then some municipalities, the opposite would be true. You could be into illegal units and they'd shut you down. So. In this case, though, we've got. So, did you get 80% of the?
Yeah.
Okay, so refinance amount, 80% of the 785 value is 628,000. So, you're getting a net takeout. So you're taking money out from the bank. You're in for nothing.
Yeah.
And you're pulling out another $100,000.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I think that might be the best BRRRR. Well, definitely in the last little while. That's the best BRRRR I've heard on the show.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I've had...
I'll get you a better one.
You'll give me a better one?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a recent example of going through these. I've had a friend of mine just sold a property that I had previously owned. Bought it from the guy I sold it to.
Yeah.
He bought it for $435 and then just put together a cash flow sheet and guaranteed the rents and sold it for $575 like 2 months later.
Yeah.
Made $140,000 for doing nothing. Aside from like making, a couple of calls and putting a couple of sheets together. But that's not a BRRRR. No, just like a really, really slam dunk deal. That's impressive. Yeah. Nice.
So problem with me, where I'm a licensed realtor, it's tough for me. I can buy anything on market, but off market,
yeah,
it doesn't look good if I buy something
and sell it for a bunch more. I agree. Yeah. There's some disclosure issues there. Especially if it's on market to on market or something like that. Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of disclosure issues with that type of thing. But getting back to this one. So 108,000, and what did you use that money for? Is that the next buy?
That one, so we were going to use it for the next buy, sitting in our account, but the bank wouldn't allow us to use it for a down payment.
Really?
Which I didn't, and my wife told me that the other day. I find the deals, my wife deals with everything else outside of that, but she told me, the bank wouldn't let us use it. So
weird.
We had the down payment already, and we're using that money for the renovation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's such an odd thing. That's what she tells me, at least. That was probably an inexperienced underwriter. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's funny. I've never heard that one. Mm-hmm. They won't let you. This is from back in my mortgage agent days. I'm still licensed, but I don't really do much of that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you borrow unsecured. So if it was an unsecured line of credit, but they were always okay if you secured it against a property. Like if you took a line of credit out on property A, you could use that as down payment on property B, as long as you could still qualify with the ratios.
Yeah.
So it might have been something to do with that. I don't know. But okay, so I want to stick with this deal and let's talk about rents. So you've got 4 units.
Yeah.
And what are you renting out the units for?
So basement is 900 all in.
Including utilities.
Yeah. And then main floor, we got 1350 plus utilities. Second floor, we got 1450 plus utilities. And then the attic, I think we are at 850 plus utilities.
Okay, so only the basement is utilities included.
Yeah.
And I imagine you have to pay water. You haven't separated that into 4 meters?
Yeah, we pay the water.
Okay, so 1 water meter. And what about gas meters? Just 1?
Ooh, yeah, just 1.
So the only thing you're separating is the electric?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're $45.50 on the building. Mm-hmm. And let's look at some of your expenses. Like what's your mortgage payment on that?
Mortgage payment, I'm guessing here, I think $2,500 to $3,000.
So we'll call it $2,750. Okay. And then property taxes, do you know the annual figure? I feel like it's like $4,000 on something.
It's not much. I think a couple $100 a month, I would think.
Probably like $4,000 a year on a house like that. Maybe $4,500.
I know it's not in a great area. It's pretty cheap.
Would it be $375 a month or not even?
I don't think it'd be that high.
Okay, so we'll say like $300 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so $300 a month on property tax, insurance on a place like that. Do you know approximate?
$180.
$180 a month. And then do you pay property management?
No.
No. Do you pay? Well, you're gonna have some landscaping.
Yeah, we have snow removal, and then we also have someone that comes and mows the grass. I think that's $25 bi-weekly.
Okay, for the whole year. Mm-hmm. So about $650 a year. You get snow and grass done for $650 a year.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I need your contact.
Snow. I don't know. Like I said earlier, my wife deals with that. Grass is $25.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Snow, I have no idea.
If it was comparable to like one of my properties like that, it'd probably be closer to like, if you combine the two, maybe like $100 a month across the year.
Yeah.
So like 1,200 or 1,000, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. So even if we were to say $100 a month, let's just say that to be conservative. So $100 a month on landscaping, and then maintenance, we should build in a number for that. What do you use?
I think we use 3 or 5%.
Okay, we'll say 5 to be a little more conservative. Sometimes I think I should do even more than that, just with some of the things that come up. But so we'll call it $225 a month, just allowance for maintenance, this and that, whatever comes up. Any other expenses that you're incurring?
Just utilities.
Oh yeah, utilities.
I don't really think there's anything.
Okay, so utilities probably be somewhere in the
250, 300, something like that.
Average across the year?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call it 300 to be conservative. So let's see, what is your net cash flow? So you're still getting even after all those expenses, you're still positive cash flow on a property that you have nothing into, that paid you $100,000. You're getting $700 a month positive cash flow.
Yeah.
Now, I would be doing as many of those deals as I could.
For sure.
That's incredible, especially for Hamilton to get that kind of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely see why you're targeting that kind of property.
Yeah. Me and my wife argue about this a little bit. So there's always a question around, do you pull all your money out, pull out that $100,000 tax-free and pocket it? Or do you go with the smaller mortgage and go for the cash flow? But I always think that for me to make that $100,000 back through cash flow is going to take me years.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely be pulling it out.
What we've done in the past is take every last dime out of there.
Yeah, as long as you can use it for an investment, right? Then you can write off the interest. If you can put it into something else, buy another property. It really comes down to your opportunity. Like, do you have more opportunity elsewhere, or do you have a line on more opportunity elsewhere that you can put that money back to work? It's cheap money, right? Like that money's at 3, maybe 3.25% right now. And you can go out and, as an active real estate investor, make over 100%. You just did. Yeah. We can't even calculate a return for that. It's infinite. So just calculating your overall return, that cash flow works out to be $83.40 a month. Your pay down, I usually like to figure on 3% a year. So 3% of your new mortgage, which we factored to be $628,000. So you're paying down about $18,000 on your mortgage in a year. Does that sound about right?
That I'm not sure of.
Oh yeah, you're not the guy that handles that. Okay, I'll just use my my estimation then. And then appreciation, Hamilton's seen some great appreciation, but we'll just go with a 3% appreciation. And if your value today is $785, then that's $23,000 of appreciation in a year. If you wanted to be really conservative, you could say only 2%, which is roughly inflation. Mm-hmm. Which is, if the numbers work on conservative, then they're really good. So let's just say it was that. So then your total return is $42,000 in a year, and your return on investment is going to be, we can't calculate it. What am I doing? What am I talking about? There is no return on investment. So you're just making $42,000 a year off this property that you really only have sweat into. Yeah. Who did you renos?
So his name is Zorn Tomasevic with, I think it's Harbor Hill Properties.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard the name before. And you were able to get a reasonable price on doing all that, evidently?
Yeah, he always stuck to his timelines. We did run into some city issues at one point, but that's not really his fault. He stayed within budget. One thing I really like about him, he acts or conducts himself, he behaves like a business owner, where some contractors I've dealt with in the past do not at all.
Yeah, they create drama and stuff. Yeah, I've dealt with that a lot.
Yeah,
I can definitely relate. Okay, so that's great. I mean, it seems like reasonable numbers for what you've done. Like on a complete gut, 4 units with all the fireproofing in between the units, and I'm sure that you've done reasonably nice finishes to be able to come out there at $200K. That makes logical sense to me based on what I've seen. So fantastic deal. Are you actively, first off, how are you finding that? I know you said there's a couple of ways that it happens. You're either hustling and maybe door knocking, prospecting, or you're finding somebody's mistake.
Yeah.
So what was this property?
This one was a mistake.
That was the mistake. Okay. Yeah. What about the other ones? You've got 6 so far.
So most recent ones, so one of them, it's not a buy, rent, or refi. We're actually moving into it. Total gut though. What happened with that one? So I got a call from a realtor I know. He had the house next door listed. Yeah. And that one was at $299. $399. I went to take a look at it. It was too much for me. I would have had to go private, but the one next door was for sale. Horrible condition, super dated.
It was on the market?
Yeah, it was on the market for $100,000 more. What I realized at that time, no one was looking at it because it was $100,000 more. So we got it, I think, $40,000 under ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your buy on that one?
We got that one for $460.
So you're paying 460. How much work would you have to do on that one? Is it still a $200,000?
Probably 150.
So 460 and then another 150. You're in for just over 600. Mm-hmm. And you're still pulling out a refi of like 6 and change.
That one, I'm gonna get a line of credit on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in that house, we're gonna live in it.
So are you still sectioning it up into multiple units?
No, it's gonna be single family.
Oh, okay. So that's just home. That
should be worth around somewhere between 750 and 8 when it's done.
Okay.
So play there will be to put a line of credit on it and then go buy more multi-fams. Yeah.
And so do you figure that, like, is that the same style? Is that a 2.5 story as well?
Yeah.
So you just like those? Mm-hmm. All right. Fair enough. At least you know what you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the total number of doors then in your portfolio? If you've got 6 properties,
so we have
one's at home and then the other 5 that are
home. We're at 11. Yeah.
And you started how long ago?
First one we ever bought was in 2015. Everything we did, I said it earlier, we didn't sell anything. We actually did sell that one. Okay. Next one was 2016. So I guess everything we own, we purchased in the last 3 years.
That's incredible, man. So we're going to transition and talk a little bit about mindset now and what you've done, because as a realtor, you hustled. And I'd love to hear about your strategies there, how you kind of set up your day. Yeah. How you find a way to balance being a realtor and a real estate investor and be able to crush it at both. Mm-hmm. So why don't you enlighten me a little bit as to how you conduct your days and make things work? On the realtor side of things, there's really, and I think the skill set can apply to an investor if it's used the right way. So I tell all the new realtors that join our team, you have to do 5 things. Everything outside of that doesn't matter at all. You have to lead generate, you have to follow up with those leads, to script and role play, go on appointments, and then negotiate contracts. Money-making activities, all your time should be spent doing that. And my calendar is blocked for those activities. So I get to the office at 8, I script until 8:30. From 8:30 to 9, I'll do some paperwork. Then I lead generate from 9 to noon. Then I have an appointment block after that. After that, I'll have a block for negotiating contracts. And then anytime I'm not going on appointments or not negotiating contracts, I view that day as a failure, and I need to make sure it doesn't happen the next day. So all the gaps in my day where I have nothing to do, I'm doing more lead generation. That's awesome. And then the most important part starts before the day even begins. Yeah. Before the work day begins. So you obviously know Dylan. I think you're not on Dylan's team, but you're. Yeah, I know. You know Dylan and his Miracle Morning. I know you're doing the same thing. So you're. What time are you getting up? Same time as Dylan. 4 a.m.? Yeah. Oh my God. I get up at 6 a.m. or 5:45, and I think that's incredibly early. Like that's a tough one. I just like the way I look at it, the highest performing people in the world wake up super early. Yeah. If that's what I want to be in my future, I may as well replicate what they're doing. You might as well act like it. Okay. So what are you building into your morning? For those people who aren't familiar with the book, The Miracle Morning, haven't studied that, what's that look like for you? And, what have you kind of made your own out of it? Yeah. So I just ripped off Hal Elrod. He's got the saver. So it's silence for S, silence, which is meditation. A, affirmations. V, visualization. Then I exercise. That's, in my opinion, the most important one. You go for like a run or something? It's all blocked in my calendar. So today was run day with the dog. One morning is yoga. I have one morning where I lift weights, and then 2 mornings where I do spin classes. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, and then you're reading after that. That's the next one. And then I read after that and scribe, and then I've added recently just like 5 minutes of gratitude. I built that in too, actually. Yeah. I built that in at the silence part. I just do it right after that. I'm surprised you missed that one. It's so important. Well, because we were both at the same conference, and I know, and we heard him speak, and I think he had mentioned that. He's like, oh, you can kind of make that your own and adjust it. And I remember kind of doing that back in the day. I read some of Rhonda Byrne's books and realized how powerful that is. Yeah. And law of attraction, right? You get more of what you're grateful for, so you should really focus your brain on what to be grateful for. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, kind of conditioning the mind and getting ready for the day. I think a lot of people don't place nearly enough importance on that. I find I get tired very early at night. I don't know if you find the same.
I go to bed at 9:30 every night.
9:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
the evenings, for the most part, that's when bad things happen in life. If you're gonna get it in a bar fight, it's gonna be in an evening.
Yeah.
If you're gonna drink too much, it's gonna be in the evening.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person that's likely, like you have the personality where you're gonna do drugs, it's probably in the evening.
Yeah.
I've noticed a trend, like nothing good in my life really comes from the evening. So why not eliminate them, but why not just spend that time with my family and go to bed early?
Do you have kids?
One on the way in January.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're married, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as family life, you're going to be getting busy.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that I remember, because I heard you speak on stage briefly, was that in your first full year of real estate, you did like an astronomical number for a new realtor. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So first year I did 54 ends. 2 of them didn't close, so 52.
Yeah. So one a week in his first year as a realtor. And I mean, that's, if you're selling $400,000 houses on average, there's a good amount of commission there on 54 ends. That means, so you were mostly the listing agent on those? So yeah, an end is either a list or a buying agent. So Mike likes to be a listing agent, as he was telling me before we got going here. So that's huge progress. So you attribute that to your 5 money-making activities?
Yeah, I think it's that. And what I find, I'm pretty fortunate. I work for Keller Williams, and we have this guy. He's, in my opinion, the largest, most influential person in real estate. It's Gary Keller. Mm-hmm. And he lays out a framework for all of us to follow.
Is that in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book?
Exactly, yeah. So I read the book when I got in the business, and my thought process was, if this super successful real estate agent recommends I use this strategy or build my life in this way, I'm just going to do it. Or I think the average person will come in and their perspective is, yeah, there's this very successful real estate mogul with this plan, but yeah, I'm just going to try and do it my way and be entrepreneurial, which never made any sense to me.
Yeah, I heard that, I forget where I heard this story, but McDonald's didn't want MBAs buying their franchises. Mm-hmm. They wanted to sell it to like farmers and people who would not question the wisdom of the franchise. Yeah. Like they would just take the recipes, take the procedures, and not try to mess with them. Yeah. Just take it as it was laid out, because it was laid out by somebody who knew how to make it work.
Yeah, like in our business, on my team, it's almost like when we recruit someone new, that new person comes in and talks to us. So I'm Ray Kroc, and first day on the job, they want to serve curly fries, but McDonald's never served curly fries ever. It's like, why don't you just serve the regular fries?
Yeah.
We're successful serving the regular fries. We're successful using the systems we have in place. And we know it works because many people before us have used them. Yeah.
That's smart. So what's it look like for you? Because I know everyone's kind of got a different type of prospecting that they do. For you, what did you find that was a comfortable fit?
So for me, it's all done on the telephone.
Okay. So tell me about that. I just think like the ingenuity, the persistence is a cool story. I think our listeners and viewers would like it.
Yeah. So it's called a Mojo triple line dialer. So every day I'll go in and just map an area of the city, and the only area I'll map is downtown Hamilton. And then it pulls in all the phone numbers from the yellow pages, and you just start dialing, and you dial 3 people at a time. First one to pick up, you speak to, and I have there's like a voice recording. So if they don't pick up, or if the call goes to them, but I'm on the line with someone else, it will just say hello, 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 and it will appear as though I can't hear them.
Is it your hello that's
yeah.
So you pre-recorded a hello?
Yeah. And then,
I love it.
And then they think it's the phone that has a problem, and I just call them right back after I'm done with the conversation I'm on right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. Okay. So why Yellow Pages?
It's just where all the phone numbers come
So
from.
you're just calling businesses then, not homeowners?
They're all homeowners.
Oh, okay, so you're
It's
sorry.
like, I guess
the
Canada, White Pages. Sorry.
Well, that's what you want to say. Yeah, the White Pages. Okay, but White Pages, that's only landlines though, right? Which is kind of dying.
So that's all I have access to. But fortunately, the target demographic of people that own the homes we want to invest in are the ones that still have landlines. So it works out perfectly.
Yes, that's why you always pay attention to who your target is, right? If you're gonna renovate a property, know who you're renting to. If you're buying from somebody, know who you're buying from or listing from. Okay, so you're listing, you're calling to 3, somebody picks up. How many calls do you get done inside of a day?
When I first started, I was trying to do about 150 a day. Like speak
outbound
to 150
calls.
people a day. Yeah.
Speak to 150. Yeah. Holy crap. How long are these calls?
Normally they're very quick. So, hi, my name's Mike, calling from Keller Williams. Do you have any plans of selling your house? And
that's all you say?
They'll swear at you,
like,
tell you no in a ton of different ways, and conversation's over in 20 seconds.
At least in Hamilton, I've noticed, like, I sent out some flyers. I had people, call me and threaten my life. Like you'll get some interesting stuff from that demographic.
You definitely build some pretty thick skin.
That's valuable though. Had you ever done that kind of thing before?
Never.
No outbound cold calling. So your first day on the job, it's like, okay, 150, let's go. And you did 100.
My life is on the line, or my future is.
Yeah, so you just knew, like, I'm going to have to do this. Did Sandy do that?
He did at one point. So that model, we kind of pulled it from Mark Loeffler. Sandy was trained by Mark, and then I was trained by Sandy. So.
Okay. Yeah, I've got Mark lined up to come on this podcast soon too.
Yeah, Mark's a guy I respect a lot. Like he ran a very tight ship. You can ask him about this, but the story I heard, he would lock everyone in a room. Not lock them, they made the choice to go in the room, and his assistant would be standing at the door, and he'd collect cell phones. And then he'd have landlines waiting for all his team members in the room, and they pretty much had to call from 9 to noon or 9 to 1. And if they didn't like it, Mark's team wasn't a good fit for them.
How would that kind of a room prevent them? How would you not be calling the same person?
It's big city.
Big city? So they just, like with your thing, like does your system automatically rule out numbers you've already talked to? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you could say, oh, don't call that one again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so.
It's a numbers game though. If someone else is calling the same area, the person they call may not be home at one time, and then I catch them when they're home. And 2 months ago, they had no plans of selling, but because I'm calling it such a high volume, I catch them on this perfect day when something has happened in their life that's caused them to want to sell.
So 150 calls a day, are you still doing that, or are you doing more?
No, I'm not doing more, but I do less myself now, but I have a VA that
is calling as well.
About 200 people a day for me.
And calling from what, like a VA in India or something like that?
Philippines.
Good English?
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he or she is okay with getting yelled at, and
they're as far as I know, they're fine with it.
I gotta give me one of these. Yeah. That's fantastic.
I can get you one if you want one.
Yeah, actually, we should talk about it. I mean, I guess I'm curious about how to implement it, but I mean, for me, I'm looking for my own lead gen, to buy properties. I'd love to buy properties, and from people who don't necessarily want to list, and have some sort of a motivation to want to sell off market. Which, let's face it, there's lots of them. Quick closings, maybe the privacy issues. They don't want anyone to know that they're doing it. Lots of reasons that might be a fit. So I'm trying to think of how I can get creative about finding leads. And I'm not opposed to outbound calls, but I feel like that's probably a lower percentage for me than for you as a realtor. Yeah. Have you ever used it to generate a lead to buy for yourself?
Well, when I first got in the business, I had no money, so that wasn't an option. Yeah. So I would generate the lead and find someone like yourself and sell it to someone I know.
So you did sell some stuff off market. It didn't all list.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're still welcome to bring me deals. Just for the
absolutely.
record.
Whoever. I tell anyone that's interested in it, if you promise me you'll close a deal and not screw around and not take too long thinking about it, you'll get to the top of my list very quickly.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about that some more. I mean, for me, I got to be able to buy it at a price I can make money. So that's
for sure. Well, I think with certain sellers, they, like you said, they need some kind of flexibility. They either need a very fast close. Sometimes it's the opposite. They need a really long close.
And they just want to know it's done, right?
If you can offer a solution to them at a price that makes sense for both of you, I think everyone wins. And very often that price is not what they could get on market. They're well aware of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like some of them will just decide it's okay, right? Like this is what I can do, this is what makes sense, and you get a deal done. So so for anyone listening, like don't be afraid to contact local realtors, even if you are looking for off-market stuff, because you never know. They might be a perfect fit. They might have somebody. Yeah. You know, maybe you find a really funky house that you don't even want to list, but you're like, there's potential.
Yeah. And a lot of the time it's older people, and specifically hoarders, they never want to go to market, and hoarder houses are the best deals.
Yeah, or the cat pee houses. I've only heard about them. I've never found my cat pee house. Yeah. My mother-in-law and my wife did buy a house, sixplex together, and the garage was a cat pee garage. I'll tell you that. Yeah. I went out there and my eyes were burning. It was so bad.
You'll be amazed what you see as a realtor. The one I told you about, I sold it to a client last year. Legal duplex, 2,000 square feet for $300. One that appraised at $830. So that house, lady had passed away 5 years ago, sitting vacant. She was a hoarder, literally garbage from the floor to the ceiling, and there were little pathways carved out.
What an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, if you are willing to take that on. Most people are too scared though.
See, that for me is not even a slight issue. Like no amount of reno or work on a property is scary. Is it worth it? That's the question, right? Junk and all that, I don't care about that. Structural issues, don't care about that. Bricks cracking diagonally, and then I start to look at, okay, well, that could be a little bit deeper. I'm going to need a deeper discount to make sense of it. But I am a believer that every property is a deal at the right price.
For sure.
Yeah. It's just, sometimes that price might be almost free.
Yeah. Comes with time though. Like I have that mentality now, but 3 years ago, I certainly didn't.
Yeah. And as anyone getting started should, like you should pick properties that are going to be manageable. For me, when I got started, I wasn't finding fantastic deals on the market. I was renoing smart. Yeah. And it was a slow, and time consuming for me process. But I was able to do some really good BRRRRs because of it. Yeah. Student rental BRRRRs, just seeing value that others can't see, which was what I was kind of doing. But I realized that model is a hard work model, and I would much rather do a smart work model. So that's why I'm re-gearing now to, focus more of my energy on finding off-market stuff.
Yeah. I think when you're in the beginning, it's better to jump in, even if you look back and you realize you purchased something for too much or it wasn't perfect fit for your portfolio. Sure, I love renovating something and pulling $100,000 out tax-free, but long term, it's not timing the market or getting that perfect deal. It's just spending time in the market. Yeah. Things I overpaid for 3 years ago, people think I'm a genius for buying them today. I think taking action is the most important thing.
Everyone looks like a genius for holding property. Yeah. Isn't that the funny thing? Oh, I wish I had the foresight to know the market was going to do that. Well, we all do. Yeah. It's a matter, for me, it's more of a matter and an equation. Like I need to be able to cash flow so that I'm not going to be paying that property, and it's more sustainable. Yeah. And I'm looking for something where I can BRRRR it and at least pull the money I've got in and back out, if not almost. Yeah. Like, maybe a few thousand or 10,000 left in kind of thing.
Do you know Dion Begg?
I know the name. He sponsors.
Get him on this podcast. You just said you'll only buy something if it cash flows. I'm the same way, but he's got a very compelling argument for people that are new to investing.
To buy cash negative?
Not to buy cash negative, but his argument is that it's not necessarily a bad investment if you're in the red, a couple $100 a month. Mm-hmm. Just because the principal pay down and the appreciation long term
Oh, I agree with you.
It will put you in a good place.
My counter to that is, and yeah, we could duke it out on it, but my counter to that is that yes, if all things go as they've been going, perfectly agree. It's when they don't, for me, and I just know me, and I guess I'm more speaking for myself and how I feel about it, but I don't ever want to resent that bill. Like when I get a call and say, well, you need a new roof and it costs $16,000, which by the way, I did just get quoted $15,000 on a new roof on one of my properties that I've only owned for a few years, and the roof was supposed to be fine. And it turned out that it was nailed to barn board instead of resheeted. They didn't resheet it the last time they did it, so they cheaped out. And now I'm finding out, and a shingle blew off because it wasn't properly nailed, because it couldn't. You know, you have gaps between the boards. So if your seam happens to fall there, then you're tough luck. When those things happen, I don't like that feeling in my gut. I'm like, ugh, if I don't have the money saved aside for it. So to me, the cash flow builds my accounts, which is buffer for all that stuff, right? I like to keep $10,000 to $15,000 per property before I would even think about taking money out of that account. And
I do that now, but in the beginning, I did not do that. Like I would make a little bit of money from my job and go to zero.
But that's, you know what, for your personality, that seems to work quite well.
I don't do that anymore. I did it then because I felt I had to.
But you gave yourself hustle, right? And you still hustle. I guess you're starting to work a little bit smarter than harder at the moment now.
Yeah. Now it's so much easier when you get more access to capital.
Yeah.
Like the first one we did, we spent all of our money on it. We probably had a couple $1,000s left to our name after we purchased that. And then that was in my wife's name. And then I bought the next one 6 months later in my name. And then I remember there was, the old clay pipes in Hamilton?
Yeah, clay tile, yeah.
It was up on the mountain. So one of those completely collapsed. And we brought a company in, they dug it up, and before we knew it, we spent 12 grand on that pipe, but that was 12 grand I needed for the next house.
Those are frustrating.
Frustrating, it's terrifying, but you make it work.
Those are some of the biggest pain points, I think, on real estate that I've seen for cash calls that I wasn't expecting are your sanitary sewer, just like that. Yeah. So either roots break in and collapse it, or they just break in and clog it and you get a toilet backup, or your sewer backs up inside the house. Yeah. And it gets really ugly. So that's one of them. Those can be extremely expensive. You're either going to line the sewer, it's going to cost a lot of money, or you're going to have to dig it up like you did. And so you have to have a budget for that, or camera it out before you buy it. But I mean, I don't know what your luck is going to be trying to tell a seller that, hey, you have a clay tile pipe, we're going to pay you less. Well, hey, the other 3 buyers are okay with it. Yeah. So, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But then, roof and then furnace, AC, those are probably the biggest 4 costs. I don't know if you have any others that you've noticed that are kind of surprises.
What I have noticed, I've noticed nothing costs more than $10,000.
Fair.
That's kind of my rule.
Yeah, nothing really does. No, not on an individual basis. But things
it's very rare. I'm a bit of a paranoid person, so when a pipe bursts, I worry that something else is going to go wrong at the same time, and I want to have enough money to cover it. But then my wife pokes me and tells me I'm being ridiculous. Like, what are the odds of 2 pipes breaking in 2 different houses? And
there is always, like, the more you're in this game, private money in a worst case scenario. If you needed, a short, quick fix. To get some cash to pay for something big that happened. I did have a reno that was kind of a cash call. It was about $30,000 on one property at the end of the summer, and I wasn't expecting it, but it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to need to do these things. I might as well do these other things too. And I just did it, and I made the property better at the same time. But it might not always be on your radar as an investor, so you kind of have to have some money set aside. But that's why, Dion Begg, he might have a very good approach, and it could work for a lot, especially like doctors and people who make so much active income and just needed somewhere to put it. Yeah. I could say, that probably makes sense. It would just really suck if you had like the same thing that happened in like 89 to 91, where there was a huge crash, and it took like 20 years to fully recover, inflation adjusted. Yeah. If something like that happened and you bought in the high market, you'd probably you probably wouldn't be too happy. No. So that's my counter to that, right? Yeah. It's just, if the market does go down and I still have cash flow, it's going to be that much more palatable. It's kind of where my head's at with it.
It's tough though, right? When you're first starting out, you don't have a lot of money. it's hard to get your hands on something that does cash flow. If you have access to 20 grand, what can you buy? You can buy a single family, and it's, in this market, it's probably in the red.
Do you see real estate as a true passive game though? Because I think some people try and get into it as a passive game, and I think that's their mistake. I think that as a real estate investor, if you want to be passive, be a joint venture partner that just puts up the money, but make sure it's with somebody that you trust. Make sure it's with somebody that you know would look out for you before they'd look out for themselves. But otherwise, be ready to put in the work.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a way around that. So
it is a lot of work. I think like with these buy, rent, or refi projects where you go really deep on the renovation, to a certain degree, the product when it's finished, it's a brand new house. So it's very rare that we ever have serious issues at this point.
Yeah. Are you redoing the shingles in those processes as well?
Generally speaking, yeah.
So you're redoing the roof, like you're doing the big things. So, and if you waterproof the basement, then you really should have no issue unless you have the sanitary sewer backup. But, if you could literally just go through a checklist, and if you've done it all, then okay, I really shouldn't have to do anything on this property. So, but you never know for sure, right?
No, you don't.
Yeah. But my point with it being active is sometimes if cash flow doesn't exist, you have to create it like you did. Yeah. You go in and you renovate that project and you turn it into something that you can get cash flow on. But if you can't, then maybe you look at other markets or you have to get more creative. Yeah. So there's always a way. It's just not necessarily easy. And I think the people who want to be able to just work their full-time job and buy a cash flowing property, that's getting harder and harder. For sure. But I think it's worth it. It's worth being an active investor, especially with what you're seeing in appreciation. Like think about how much your properties have gone up in value, even in the time you've owned them.
Yeah, it's some of them have doubled.
Some of them have doubled since 2016.
Yes. So I'd say the first one we bought, if I still owned it, it would have doubled. The one we have the second one we bought, that's in my name, I think we paid $200 for it. Probably worth $350.
No renos? They just
basically new flooring. That's it.
Okay. And then you started BRRRRing on the last like 4 or so?
Yeah.
Okay. And out of those, how many do you have JV'd?
We have 3 of them JV'd.
JV'd, just like a 50-50 and the investor put in the money?
One of them's 50-50. So it's, he doesn't even live in the province. He's from Vancouver. Okay. Obviously you can't buy anything in Vancouver at a reasonable price. So he watched a video we made on investing and called me, and met 2 months later. I had $300,000 to play with.
That's beautiful. Well, you had a YouTube video you put up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. I didn't know. Do you have a channel?
Yeah, we call it, we're not consistent like you, definitely not once a week, but call it Moguls in the Making.
Moguls in the Making.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have, the podcast is once a week, but what I really need to be doing is like educational videos on specific topics, which I am not currently, but that is really a next step. It's been about clearing enough off my table with the podcast side of things so that I have time to do that too. But I see, just like what happened for you there. It's there's so much opportunity there. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Mike, if people wanted to get in touch with you and learn a bit more about what you do, where should we send them?
So email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. It's mike@MacKayRealtyNetwork.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on social as well, or?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah. You post like some of your stuff, your renos, your work, nothing like that yet?
Once in a while, but not consistently.
Okay, so we won't send people there just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got your YouTube channel, but...
YouTube channel, not consistent. We're starting it's actually through KWIP, we're starting a podcast called Sales Beast. So we're going to interview the top 20% of agents in Keller Williams.
That's awesome. And, I hope people really got a lot out of this, because, the way you're crushing it and just following systems and putting your head down and not questioning tried and true wisdom is amazing. I think there's a time to be creative, absolutely, but when you know it works and you can just go out and monetize it, and then focus your creativity on how you'll finish the house you renovate, it's really smart. I'm definitely looking forward to following where you end up in the next 10 years and just how much you do. But just before you go, is there anything that you would want to share with our listeners and viewers?
A piece of advice?
Sure. Yeah.
I would say your best thing I've been exposed to or learned recently, it's just that you are the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. So be very, very, very choosy about who you keep in your inner circle. If someone isn't in alignment with where you want to go, even if they're a family member, maybe they're your best friend, separate yourself from them.
Yeah, and that's a hard one to follow. I think you're not going to cut your parents out of your life, but you might spend a little less time with them if they're constantly bringing you down. Yeah, that's a good piece of advice, but a hard one for a lot of people to follow.
I got lucky with that because I'm from the East Coast and moved up here, and I didn't know a soul when I got here, and spent the last few years in Toronto, and now moved to Hamilton. And once again, I don't know a soul. So everyone, I hang out with Sandy, I hang out with Adrian, I hang out with Sandy's wife, Kate, and they're all doing this at a high level, and I don't really see anyone else other than that.
You know what? That's actually something I noticed about you, like, because I knew Sandy was doing that, and then when I spoke to you and you're on Sandy's team and you guys are doing the exact same thing, I'm like, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? You want to learn how to do something, go work with somebody who does it. And it just rubs off. And that's how I got into the student rental game. I know we didn't really talk about that today, but I got my buddy was just absolutely crushing it. And he was nice enough that he would actually pick up the phone when I called and I talked to him. Yeah. And we shared, little ideas back and forth. And, it's just, I love how things like that can work in the investor world. So surround yourself. And on that note, the Greater Hamilton area meetup, if you ever want to make it out, I'm sure plenty of people would love to hear what you're up to. And
for sure.
And Dylan occasionally makes it out. He's been really busy planning that event, but now that that's gone, and I'm sure he'll be out to the next one as well. So, anyways, thanks again, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'll look forward to an update.
For sure.
Hey guys, thanks for watching today's episode. If you have not already done so, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, please make sure you click that like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Leave me a comment below. And while you're at it, why not share this episode with somebody that you think it can help? I would really appreciate it, and it's going to help this podcast grow and help build the community around it. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next episode.